True Story Media.
Blizzard Entertainment presents Midnight, the newest expansion for World of Warcraft. Midnight calls every hero home to Azeroth. All paths lead to this moment. Xalatath rises, the Void follows, and the Sunwell stands in peril. Raiders, explorers, storytellers, newcomers, and legends alike. This is your world, your story, your moment. Because Azeroth is home, and home is always worth fighting for. Available now at worldofwarcraft.com.
This podcast contains adult themes and language, and some of the things that we discuss may be disturbing to some listeners. In this podcast, we discuss sexual assault, torture, race, and murder. Listener discretion is advised. Please take care of yourself.
Welcome to Fruitloops, Buiti Binafi, and Bienvenidos Bitches. Thank you so much for listening. Fruitloops is a true crime, history, and comedy podcast that delves into the often overlooked stories of serial killers of color and, more importantly, the victims. We take deep dives into the lives and crimes of these killers worldwide, while also examining the history, culture, and social factors that may have influenced their actions. And the reason that we cover these crimes is because they often go unnoticed by the public. And why is that? Because in the simplest of terms, the news is racist. Allegedly.
And we are Wendy and Beth. She's Wendy, a Black Latinx woman, and I'm Beth, and I just happen to be white. That's just a little piece of who we are. Another piece is that although we are both fascinated by true crime, really fascinated by true crime, and we know a lot about it, keep in mind that we are not journalists, investigators, or psychologists, and the opinions expressed in this podcast are just that, our opinions.
Okay, who are we talking about today, friend?
Well, first I wanted to say that this episode was suggested to us by our Fruity Marcus.
Yes, thank you, Marcus.
Yeah, thank you so much. We love it when you guys can send us some cool subjects to talk about. So thank you, Marcus.
Yeah, 100%. Un aplauso. Thanks, Marcus.
Thanks, Marcus. And our subject today is Cleophas Emmanuel Cooksey Jr., a convicted American serial killer and spree murderer. So in late 2017, a wave of random, deadly shootings swept through the Phoenix metro area. With no clear pattern and no warning, lives were taken in an unfolding spree that left the community shaken and searching for answers. This is episode 268, Terror in the Valley.
Yeah, I'll get into it in my text, but another shooting spree.
Yes, another shooting spree. Yeah. And we'll get into that as well.
Fantastic. Well, before we do, how you doing?
I'm doing better this week, although I am fighting off a cold. So forgive me if I'm a little nasal. But I had a nice long weekend with President's Day. I didn't do much, but you know what? It's nice not to have to work.
Yes. Just that extra day.
Yeah. It makes such a big difference. Just really
feels wonderful. And then a short week, you got to cram 5 days worth of work in, but still, it's nice. Friday's right around the corner.
Yeah.
I love that. We love to see it, and we love that for you.
Thank you. You
bet. Spring is almost here. I'm still riding high off the Conejo Malo Bowl. So I'll be good for a while, but I've been listening to a lot of Latin and Caribbean music since the Benito Bowl, and it's really feeding my soul. So things are good. We're good over here.
Well, good.
So before we get into our episode, we just want to remind the listeners that this is a podcast that covers true crime involving people of color and minoritized folks. And that means that we talk about real human beings' lives, real systems that affect people, and real shit. So sometimes things can get heavy. And sometimes we have to laugh to keep from crying. And sometimes it's both of those things at once. Race and crime are challenging topics to discuss, but we believe that, hey, this is the world that we live in. And we believe, facing these topics with honesty, curiosity, and care, this is a space where we can all learn and unlearn stuff together. And we know we're not always going to get it perfect, but we're committed to owning our mistakes and, growing from them and keeping it moving on our collective quest to be our best sexy selves. Amen.
Yeah. And we welcome our listeners to be a part of the conversation on Facebook or Blue Sky at Fruitloops Pod, or you can email us at fruitloopspod@gmail.com.
Okay, so let's take a quick break and then we'll get into the story when we come back.
All right.
So you're running out of closet space. The good news? You don't need to stop shopping. You just need to start selling with The RealReal. The RealReal is the world's largest and most trusted resource for authenticated luxury resale. Whether it's that mini bag that can't even fit your phone, or those boots you never fully broke in, The RealReal handles everything from photography and copywriting to shipping and pricing. So you can just sit back, get paid, and make room for things that actually feel like you. And with 10,000 plus new arrivals every single day from top designers like Prada, Celine, Louis Vuitton, and Loewe, all for up to 90% off retail, you're bound to find something perfectly on brand to fill that extra closet space with. Plus, right now, you can get an extra $100 to shop when you sell for the first time. Make room for what feels like you. Go to therealreal.com to start selling and get your extra $100 to keep shopping at therealreal.com. That's therealreal.com. Terms apply.
Buying good seafood shouldn't feel like a gamble. With Wild Alaskan Company, you can cook with confidence. You'll get wild-caught, perfectly portioned seafood delivered right to your door, frozen right off the boat to lock in fresh flavor, texture, and key nutrients. Never farmed. No antibiotics, GMOs, or additives. Just high-quality fish that tastes incredible every time. And it's all backed by a 100% money-back guarantee. Get seafood you can trust. Go to wildalaskan.com/cast, C-A-S-T, for $35 off your first box.
We're back. Remind us, Beth, who is our subject today?
Our subject today is Cleophas Emmanuel Cooksey Jr., who committed at least 8, probably 9, homicides between November 27th and December 17th, 2017 in Phoenix and the nearby cities of Avondale and Glendale. 4 of the murders happened within 2 square miles, and the victims ranged in age from 21 to 56.
So this is the love and light portion of our show where we say rest in power to the victims whose lives were stolen, taken, cut short, and love and light to their loved ones and communities left in the wake of this crime. The victims are Andrew Remillard, 27, Parker Smith, 21, Salim Richards, 31, Jesus Real, 25, Latori Beckford, 29, Christopher Cameron, 21, Maria Villanueva, 43, Cooksey's mother, Renee Cooksey, 56, and his stepfather, Edward Nunn, 54. And most of the victims were known to Cooksey, and they all had lives and loved ones and people who cared about them.
Yeah.
So now let's get into the setting and the early life of our subject. What do you got, Beth?
So our story takes place in the Phoenix, Arizona metro area, what locals simply call the Valley, which is short for the Valley of the Sun. If you've ever been to Los Angeles, you'll recognize the feeling right away. The Valley is a vast stretch of urban sprawl. Neighborhoods, strip malls, freeways, and subdivisions unfolding in every direction, covering about 14,600 square miles. And to put that into perspective, that's roughly 1.25 times the size of the entire country of Belgium.
Wow.
Yeah.
One city. Yeah. Phoenix is a big city. I mean, it's like 6 million people. It's like one of the largest capitals in the country.
Yeah. And it's one of the fastest growing counties.
Still?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
One
I
of
see
the
you,
fastest
Maricopa
growing. It used to be the fastest. I'm not sure where it is anymore, but it's still growing.
Wow. It's not full yet?
Well, I think it is. I think it was full years ago, but nobody cares
That's what they say about
think.
all the big cities. So the Phoenix metro area is a patchwork of more than 55 cities, towns, and unincorporated communities, including Phoenix, Glendale, Avondale, Peoria, Mesa, Scottsdale, Chandler, and Gilbert. And if you're driving through, you might not even realize when you've crossed from one city into another. They blend together quite seamlessly, although the street signs vary from.
Yeah,
That's how you can tell.
Yeah, there are signs.
Technically, there are, of course, borders, but in practice, they're almost invisible.
And we have been here before when we covered the Baseline Killer and Corey Dion Morris. But this time, we're going to zoom out for a moment and take a look at something different. Because to understand the story we're about to tell, we need to talk about Arizona's long and complicated relationship with firearms.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a trip to walk around and see people with guns, just like in their pockets.
Yep.
Anyway, so Arizona's history with guns is anything but simple. Over the years, it's shifted alongside changes in culture, politics, and ideas about safety and personal freedom. And while pop culture loves to paint the Arizona frontier as a lawless Wild West, where everyone walked around with guns, the truth is more layered than that.
In fact, early communities often put strict rules in place, not to limit freedom, but to keep the peace.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Back in the mid-1800s, as Arizona moved from rugged territory towards more organized settlements, leaders acted quickly to regulate weapons in populated areas. Makes sense.
Wow. Way to go,
How
leaders.
Smart.
So the Howell Code of 1864, the first major legal framework for the territory, included provisions that banned carrying weapons within town limits. The reasoning was simple. In fast-growing communities, disagreements could turn deadly quick.
By the 1880s, towns like Tombstone, now famous for its frontier legends, enforced some of the best-known gun restrictions of the era.
Oh, no way.
Visitors entering town were required to check their firearms with local authorities, and carrying deadly weapons within city limits was prohibited.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, how lovely that would be.
Right? Just to not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And these laws were strictly enforced, especially in booming mining towns filled with newcomers, economic tension, and frequent disputes. It's a bit of a historical paradox. The same frontier culture we romanticize for its gunfights actually relied on regulation to function day to day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
So fast forward more than a century. Bloop, 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 bloop. And Arizona's approach has begun to shift. In 1994, the state created its first concealed carry permitting system, allowing residents to carry concealed firearms if they obtained a permit. This move reflected a broader national trend emphasizing personal protection.
Then came the 2000s, a period of rapid change. In 2009, lawmakers passed legislation allowing concealed firearms in places that serve alcohol. What? Like bars and restaurants,
Yep.
as long as the person carrying did not drink. Supporters argued that people shouldn't lose their ability to defend themselves simply because they were out in public.
Yeah, they should be able to shoot people. Come on now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I find that so wild.
Yeah. And just a year later, in 2010, Governor Jan Brewer took Arizona one step further when she signed the Firearm Freedom Act that permits certain weapons and ammunition manufactured in Arizona to be sold without following federal regulations or any regulations or registration or regulations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That,
Great.
wow.
Great.
So Arizona, wow. So if it's a Arizona manufactured gun, you could do whatever you want.
It sounds like
Wow.
it. Yeah.
Wow. Arizona became one of the early states to adopt what's known as constitutional carry when Brewer signed another bill allowing adults 21 and older to carry concealed without a permit, training, or background check. It marked a major philosophical shift from regulated permission to a presumption of individual rights.
Today, Arizona is widely considered to have some of the most permissive gun laws in the country. State law includes strong preemption rules, meaning cities and counties generally cannot pass stricter firearm regulations than those set by the state. The overall framework emphasizes protecting gun ownership rights.
But policy debates don't happen in a vacuum. They unfold alongside real events and real tragedies. Between 2005 and 2006, while the baseline killer terrorized the valley, Phoenix was also dealing with a separate wave of crimes: random nighttime shootings.
Roommates Dale Hausner and Samuel Dietman carried out a string of attacks, committing around 80 crimes, including 6 murders, attempted murders, assaults, and acts of cruelty against animals.
They killed 6 people and wounded many others as they shot at pedestrians and bicyclists, often from a moving car using a shotgun or a .22 caliber rifle. They also shot at pets and horses, and the randomness left the communities shaken.
Then, in 2015, a series of mysterious shootings targeted Phoenix area's freeways over several weeks. Vehicles were struck, panic spread, and commuters wondered whether it was even safe to drive to work. Thankfully, no one was seriously hurt. Charges against the one and only suspect were eventually dismissed. So they never
found
got anybody for that one. Yeah.
Then came the case that would haunt the Maryvale neighborhood of Phoenix. Between 2015 and 2016, a shooter stalked residents under the cover of darkness, opening fire on people outside their homes or sitting in their cars. For more than 1 year, families were afraid to gather in front of their yards. Many stayed indoors after sunset.
In April of 2017, bus driver Aaron Juan Saucedo was arrested and charged in the attacks that killed 9 people. And as far as we can tell, that case has faced lengthy delays and has not yet gone to trial. So he is the suspect, and he has been charged, but he has not been convicted.
Okay. So this finally brings us to 2017 and the crimes committed by our subject today, Cleophas Emmanuel Cooksey Jr. What a name. Cleophas was born on March 25th, 1982 in Tucson, and he is the grandson of Tucson civil rights leader Roy L. Cooksey, who was president of the NAACP in the mid-1960s, co-chairman of the Arizona Black Affirmative Action Coalition in the 1970s, president and co-founder of the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Society in the late 1980s, and vice president of Advocates for Peace and Justice in the 1990s. Wow!
He did a lot. And you know what? There was more that he did, but I didn't want to go on too long with that.
That's okay. That's okay. Reading all of that during this Black History Month, I enjoyed that very much.
Yeah.
So thank you. But I have a little culture corner for you.
All right.
About the name Cleophas and the history of Black people reclaiming their autonomy after emancipation by taking really meaningful, powerful, and often unique names. And it was partly to be able to locate other family members who may have been sold to other plantations so they could, recognize each other. But it was also a way to self-empower and liberate themselves. Now, the name Cleophas is of Greek origin, meaning glory of the Father or vision of glory. It is in the Gospel of Luke in the Bible. And in African American culture, sometimes it's a heritage-focused name tying together, Christian faith and the historical reclaiming of one's identity after emancipation. Because after emancipation, Black Americans no longer had to keep the name of their enslavers, right? Their enslavers, Williams is my slave name.
Yeah.
And they could choose their own. So many individuals chose biblical names because of how significant and powerful they were. So
I actually really like Cleophas.
I love it.
Yeah.
And Cleo for short, hello.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, it's a good name. It's a good name.
So we don't know anything about Cleophas's early life, but some facts that come up later, plus our knowledge about how these kinds of killers are created, lead us to suspect that it was not a great life when he was a child.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how involved Cleophas Sr. was in his son's life. We only know that his mother later married another man.
Yeah, but the name that they gave him, Cleophas Emmanuel, like Emmanuel is also another religious kind of name, right? So part of me suspected, maybe he grew up in a really religious household.
Home. Yeah, could be.
So in 2000, when Cleophas was just 18 years old, he and 4 other men attempted to rob a strip club. During the incident, the club's manager shot and killed one of his accomplices. A shooting investigators ruled was in self-defense.
But under Arizona's felony murder law, anyone participating in a dangerous felony can be held responsible for a death that occurs during the crime, even if they didn't pull a trigger. And it sounds like even if the person who killed the other person was the person you're robbing, and the person who was killed was your friend.
Wow, I didn't know that was the law. So.
I didn't either. I just found this out by researching this case. So because the killing happened in the course of the robbery, Cooksey was charged with that death.
He ultimately reached an agreement and pleaded guilty to manslaughter in 2001. He spent all of his 20s in prison on the manslaughter conviction. Reportedly, he did his time, was released, but violated parole and was back inside.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Hey, it's Sterling K. Brown from the Hulu original series Paradise. The next chapter begins as Xavier's search for his wife takes him above ground, and what he finds will change everything. It was never just about the bunker. Tune in and discover the truth lies outside. Paradise, the official podcast, is now streaming, and stream Paradise on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+.
Some news reports described Cooksey as an aspiring rapper. And between November 2015 and January 2016, videos were posted on YouTube under the name King Playbola, showing him performing. He was called Playboy by some of the people who knew him, and in a police interview, Cooksey told investigators he used the nickname Playboy because, in his words, he was, quote, good with women, unquote. Oh,
So now let's get into the timeline. Hit it, Beth.
In July of 2017, Cooksey was released from custody again. Just months later, on November 27th, a grim discovery was made in a parking lot in Phoenix near 16th Street and Indian School Road, just a block away from where Cooksey was living at his mother and stepfather's apartment.
Around 11:50 p.m., officers responded to what was described as an unknown trouble call. Inside a car, they found 2 young men, 27-year-old Andrew Remillard and 21-year-old Parker Smith, both dead. Each had been shot once in the head. Andrew left behind a fiancé and a son. And unfortunately, we could not find any information about Parker.
Just days later, on December 2nd, 31-year-old Salim Richards was walking to his girlfriend's apartment when he encountered Cooksey. What followed was a physical struggle during which Salim was shot and killed. Salim, a security guard, was carrying a firearm, and after the attack, both his gun and his necklace were stolen.
The next day, on December 3rd, Cooksey posted a video on Facebook. In it, he appeared to be wearing a necklace strikingly similar to the one taken from Salim. Investigators would later determine that the gun stolen from Salim Richards was used in the murders that followed.
On the afternoon of December 11th, shortly after 3:30 p.m., officers responded to an apartment in Avondale where they discovered 25-year-old Jesus Riel dead inside. He had been shot twice in the face at close range.
Authorities allege that sometime between 8 and 11 that morning, Cooksey entered the apartment and used the stolen gun to shoot Jesus twice in the face while he was lying down, apparently sleeping.
Jesus shared the apartment with his sisters and their children. It was a home filled with family, but the night before his death, tension had entered it. One of his sisters, Liliana Vasquez, had ended her relationship with her boyfriend, Cleophas Cooksey. Cooksey was familiar with the apartment and reportedly stayed there several nights a week.
Liliana discovered Jesus' body but left the apartment without calling the police. Instead, she went to find her sister, Griselda, and they called Jesus' girlfriend, Desiree Coronado, and then all three returned to the apartment. It was Desiree who called the police.
Police interviewed all three women, and they denied removing anything from the crime scene. But detectives noticed a phone charger and earbuds next to the body, but no cell phone. There were also no shell casings. So the absence of both the phone and the shell casings made them think that someone had taken evidence from the scene before the police arrived.
On December 13th, just before 7 p.m., officers were dispatched to another apartment complex in Glendale after reports of gunfire. When they arrived, they discovered 30-year-old LaTorri Beckford lying on a sidewalk between two buildings near the parking lot. He had been shot twice in the head and was pronounced dead at the scene.
According to court documents, several residents reported hearing 2 gunshots. When they looked outside, they saw a man walking away from the area where LaTorri lay. Witnesses said that when the man realized that he had been seen, he pulled out a black semi-automatic handgun.
Oh!
Yeah.
At the complex, Cleophas Cooksey was known and referred to by the nickname Playboy. Witnesses told investigators that earlier that day, LaTorri had been involved in an altercation with a man they identified as Cooksey.
But behind the police reports and news headlines was a family left to grieve an unimaginable loss. LaTorri was one of 5 siblings and is remembered by 2 nephews and 7 nieces.
On December 14th, 3 days after the murder of Jesus Real, his missing phone was tracked to a motel in Goodyear, where it was found in the possession of Liliana Vasquez, Griselda Vasquez, and Desiree Coronado.
Desiree, who was Jesus' girlfriend and the mother of at least one of his children, said that she wanted to protect personal photos and messages on the phone. Investigators seized the phone and Liliana's car as evidence, and all 3 were arrested for tampering with evidence and hindering a homicide investigation. The missing shell casings were never found.
On December 15th, just before 7:30 p.m., officers responded to reports of a shooting at yet another apartment complex in Glendale. When they arrived at the west entry gate, a man approached them saying, "My cousin's been shot," and led officers to the victim.
There, police found Christopher Cameron suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. He was transported to the hospital where he died the following day. Unfortunately, we could not find out anything about Christopher.
Witnesses reported seeing a black man in his 30s with short hair take a backpack from Christopher before fleeing on foot. Much later, once investigators had identified Cooksey as a suspect, they returned to the first responding officer and showed him Cooksey's photograph. The officer immediately recognized him as the man who had approached him at the scene and said, "My cousin has been shot."
Yep.
What?
Yep, that was pretty brazen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Ooh.
About 90 minutes later, after Christopher Cameron had been shot, and 2 miles away, at approximately 9 p.m., 43-year-old Maria Villanueva pulled into an apartment complex parking lot, heading to visit her boyfriend. It should have been just another stop, a small routine moment in an otherwise ordinary day. But surveillance cameras captured something far more ominous.
Cooksey was captured on surveillance footage entering the complex before Maria arrived. After she parked, Cooksey is seen approaching her car and speaking with her. What was said isn't known, but at some point, surveillance cameras show the two drive away in Maria's car with her in the front passenger seat.
The next morning, just before 10 a.m., Phoenix police were called to an alley where a horrifying discovery had been made. There, officers found the body of a woman lying on the ground. She was naked from the waist down and had been sexually assaulted.
The victim was identified as Maria Villanueva. She left behind two daughters, ages 14 and 18. Her car turned up later at a different apartment complex in Glendale, abandoned. Inside, investigators found a cell phone and a blood-stained men's shirt, crucial pieces of evidence.
DNA testing later confirmed the shirt belonged to Cooksey, and the cell phone was also traced back to him, tying him directly to Maria.
Ooh, DNA, yay!
Yeah.
So
DNA saves the day.
DNA saves the day. So now let's get into the investigation and the arrest. So as detectives worked to piece together what was happening, the picture emerged that was deeply unsettling. The gun used to kill Jesus Real had not only been stolen from an earlier murder victim, it would later be linked to additional killings now connected to Cleophas Cooksey. The violence wasn't isolated, it was spreading.
Investigators also tracked Cooksey's ex-girlfriend's vehicle near the scenes of two other crimes, raising suspicions that she may have driven him to or from those locations. And there's no suggestion that she knew anything about it, but just that she had been near there and may have picked him up or dropped him off near there. Each new lead seemed to open the door to something even darker.
Then, on December 17th, at around 8 p.m., Phoenix police were called to an apartment complex near 12th Street and Highland Avenue after reports of gunfire. Neighbors told officers they heard Cooksey arguing with his stepfather and screaming about the devil before they heard gunshots coming from inside the apartment.
When officers approached the apartment, they noticed blood smeared on the locked screen door, an immediate sign that something was very wrong. An officer knocked. Cooksey answered.
Standing in the doorway, he positioned himself so the officers couldn't see inside. He claimed that the blood was from a cut on his hand and insisted no one else was home. But as the officers attempted to detain him, Cooksey's behavior escalated.
He began shouting erratically, and when an officer tried to detain him, Cooksey threatened to slit the officer's throat.
Oh!
Claiming he controlled the gun and declaring himself the strongest man alive.
Oh!
He stated that he, quote, took care of the snitches for Donald Trump, unquote.
Wow, what a series of quotes. I mean,
yeah. And there
I don't
is
even know what to say
of him being arrested. Footage of this on YouTube.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And he comes off as crazy.
I'll say.
A little unhinged.
Slightly.
Yeah.
Just ever so slightly. So he was detained. Officers entered the apartment, where they found a devastating scene. Two people lying dead in the living room, both suffering from apparent gunshot wounds. When questioned, Cooksey claimed he didn't know what happened.
Well, I don't know what happened. I was just sitting here watching TV.
I gotta say this, that's a pretty unbelievable story, Cleophas.
The victims were his own mother, Renee, and his stepfather, Edward Nunn. All three had been living together in the apartment. On the sofa in the living room, investigators found Salim Richards' gun, which was later linked to the killings of LaTorre Beckford, Christopher Cameron, and Maria Villanueva. The keys to Maria's car were also found there, and Cooksey was wearing Salim's necklace. A lot of evidence.
Lots of evidence. And red-handed, I'd say.
Yeah.
So Cooksey was arrested that night and booked on 2 counts of first-degree murder, along with a charge of being a prohibited possessor of a firearm. As investigators continued their work, ballistic evidence collected across multiple crimes tied Cooksey to each of the homicides. And I kind of like this forensic technology too, because like each time a gun shoots, the bullets create like their own fingerprint.
Yeah. Every gun has its own fingerprint. Yeah.
And there's this movie. There's a mouse detective movie from the 90s.
A mouse detective movie? What?
Yes. It's
What?
called The Great Mouse Detective. And this was one of my favorite movies growing up.
Oh, okay.
And that was how the detective found it. Found the
evidence.
Well, one of the
whatever.
ways he found the crime is he would take the shell casings and put them under a microscope, and he was explaining to his little apprentice that each gun has its own fingerprint, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, ever since the 80s, you gotta
You've
watch
been
it.
detecting.
It's on Disney Plus.
Okay. In January 2018, authorities rebooked Cooksey into jail in connection with 7 additional murders. The charges expanded to include 7 counts of homicide, 7 counts of prohibited possession of a firearm, sexually motivated kidnapping, firearm theft, and armed robbery with a deadly weapon. So they had already charged him with his mom and his stepdad's murders, and now they added the rest of them on.
Okay. What had first appeared as separate tragedies was now understood to be part of a terrifying chain of violence, one that had unfolded across Phoenix in just a matter of weeks. So now let's get into the trial. What happened, Beth?
Well, prosecutors ultimately declined to charge Cooksey in the shooting death of Jesus Real at his home in Avondale. And we don't know why.
Okay.
All authorities said about it was, quote, "The homicide of Jesus Real is an ongoing police investigation and is not part of the current indictment." So I don't know if because some of the evidence was
tampered with,
if they felt like they couldn't keep going with
Successfully
that one, or if
prosecute.
they were holding one back just in case.
Oh, a
Sometimes they
backup.
do that. Yeah. So I don't know, but that's what happened.
Okay, interessante. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Cooksey's trial on the other 8 murders was delayed repeatedly by the COVID pandemic. And in a January 2020 handwritten letter to a judge, Cooksey said he was in a hurry to prove, quote, "My charges are no more than false accusations," unquote.
Okay.
He said he was not a rapist or a murderer. Quote, "I'm a music artist," unquote.
Of course. Yes.
Okay. Well, you can be a lot of things at once.
Yeah. One does not preclude the other.
That's right.
The trial finally started in April of 2025, so last year. And I actually did not know about this case until Marcus brought it to our attention. So thank you again, Marcus.
Yes, thank you, Marcus.
Whether it's a movie night or just midday, Skinny Pop is a salty snack that keeps on giving. Made with just 3 simple ingredients for an irresistibly delicious taste and a large serving size that lasts. Deliciously popped, perfectly salted. Skinny Pop, popular for a reason. Shop Skinny Pop now.
Authorities never offered a motive for the attacks, and Cooksey maintained his innocence. Investigators tied Cooksey to the killings partially through the evidence that we already talked about, the evidence that was recovered at his mother and stepfather's apartment, the gun, Maria's car keys, and Salim's necklace, which Cooksey had been still wearing when he was arrested.
Dude,
Yeah.
wow. Okay, so in September, the jury found Cooksey guilty of all charges. 8 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of armed robbery, 2 counts of kidnapping, and 1 count of attempt to commit sexual assault.
And I want to emphasize that this trial started in April and concluded in September.
Wow.
So it was a long-ass trial. It was really long. Yeah.
Wow.
So Cooksey was sentenced in December of 2025, approximately 8 years after the crimes. He received the death penalty on 6 charges. The jury was undecided on the punishment for his convictions in the killings of his mother and his stepfather. After the trial, some of the jury said they felt leniency was appropriate in those crimes.
So now let's get into where are they now? Well, Cooksey is currently being held in the Amon Browning unit at Florence Prison in Florence, Arizona.
Yep.
Last we knew, the Maricopa County attorney was considering whether to seek a sentencing retrial on the 2 murder convictions involving Cooksey's mother and stepfather, or drop the effort to seek the death penalty and let a judge impose life sentences on those 2 counts.
Yes, please do that. We don't need to spend more money on this guy.
Yeah, and then the victims, like families and stuff, have to go through it all over again.
Yeah, just do that. Just impose life sentences. He's already got the death penalty.
Right.
So Desiree Coronado and the Vasquez sisters were never charged with evidence tampering or hindering prosecution. So they were arrested, but they were never charged. So
okay,
they're out there somewhere. I don't know what they're doing.
Okay. Well, now let's get into, our thoughts on the case. What do you think, Beth?
Well, I found it interesting that the jury felt that leniency was in order when it came to the murders of his mother and stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the other crimes were friends, strangers,
Mm-hmm.
basically innocent people.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they must have felt that his mother and stepfather maybe were not innocent.
Uh-huh.
So I suspect that he did not have a good childhood.
Okay.
Who knows
I'm
what
with you on
happened?
that.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I couldn't find anything about his early life, but maybe as his case goes through appeals, sometimes we're able to look at those documents and find out more.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe in the future we'll find out more about that.
Okay.
And I also suspect that there were some mental health issues.
Yeah.
Based on some of the things that he said. Yeah.
Yeah.
And his demeanor in that video. Now, what the mental health issues come from, I don't know that either. From his childhood, or, spending most of your adult life in prison cannot help.
Right.
And I wonder what would have happened if there had been some real intervention.
Yeah.
When he got caught robbing the strip club.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of throwing him into jail to rot, if there had been some real intervention. He was 18 years old. His brain wasn't even fully formed yet.
Right.
So would none of this have happened if there had been some intervention? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's possible that he would have gone on a crime spree at some point anyway, but it does make me wonder.
Yeah, I had that same thought with regard to just putting him in prison after the manslaughter conviction, knowing he would get out eventually.
Yeah. We
without
know
any
right. A lot of these guys, they're going to come out of prison. Do you want them to come out worse?
Right. No programs while he was inside or support to avoid recidivism.
Just a horrible environment with violent people,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be that way, because prisons do make a lot of money for a very few people. And profits are clearly more important than people and public safety when it comes to the prisons, incarceration system. So I call that a system failure.
Yep.
Also, the gun laws, just how lax they were,
which is crazy.
Definitely didn't help.
Because, I came to Arizona in the 80s, like around 84.
Uh-huh.
And I remember seeing signs at stores, grocery stores, saying, don't bring guns in. And I can't remember what they said, but it was like, no guns allowed, which shocked me because I came from a place where, that wasn't even a thought in anybody's head to bring a gun into a grocery store.
Gun at the grocery store
but I
sounds
did not.
Crazy.
It does. And I guess people did walk around with guns, but there wasn't the concealed carry.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize how much the laws had changed pretty recently. And quickly.
Yeah, I think a big, there was a lot of people when Obama was elected, for reals, logical, smart people who were like, he's got to take our guns away.
Yeah.
And
just freaking the fuck out. Yeah.
Freaking the fuck out, buying up all the ammunition. There was an ammunition shortage in Arizona for some time in the 2000 teens time.
I remember that.
And it's and also the laws changed quickly around that time too, and it is I don't even know what to make of. Yeah. I also thought, I believe that names are so important. And this is a guy who my dad would say, he comes from a blessed seed. Very notable ancestors who did great work. And really, you can boil down this guy's legacy to killing people, stealing from them, their things, their lives, and, from their loved ones, and destroying entire families and communities.
Yeah.
Sense of safety.
Sad.
Yeah. And I understand that his lawyers, when the judge was getting ready to hand down the death penalty, claims that the death penalty was a racist punishment. And the judge, surprisingly, I guess, acknowledged this claim, but the sentence was handed down anyway.
But don't care.
Well, I was to say, both things can be true. Yeah, it is racist. We do know that black men get the death penalty disproportionately more than white men, but also...
as
my
grandson says, womp womp.
Oh my God. The judge felt at the same time the death penalty was appropriate. I just thought it was interesting that they made the claim and it was acknowledged.
The judge agreed and then carried on
and
giving
did
him
what the judge had to do.
Yeah.
So many murders in such a short amount of time, and killing his mom and his stepdad. To me, I didn't pick up on that the jury felt there should be leniency for those two murders. But that was one of the most shocking aspects of the case.
Yeah.
Like it speaks to a really evil mind, evil mind. And then the cherry on top, he did this for Trump. And Blacks for Trump is real. And there are like think pieces about it all over the internet. I think there could be an element of self-hatred tied to it. And to be a Black person and support a bona fide racist. And also, I don't think he was convicted of any crimes at that point, but there was some suspicions, right? Some accusations about his sexual predation.
Right.
That's
he said
many women
grab him by the pussy.
He did say that.
Yeah. And then everybody's like, oh, well.
Yeah. Locker room talk.
Locker room talk.
Yeah. So I think that there can be some self-hatred there. I'm not a psychologist or anything.
What?
That's just what you're not going to believe this. And there was support for Trump, Black support for Trump in this last election. And it was only Black men who increased in their numbers as far as support. And people have said that Black men may have seen Trump suddenly being targeted and treated unfairly, which resonates with Black men. And I also think there might be like
well, he always takes this victim stance. So and people believe it. So
yeah. He was also an artist. I'm assuming he was a rapper, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But in rap, Donald Trump's name was mentioned in rap for decades, more than like any other real human person. Yes. There's lots of Donald Trump bars out there because he was like, before he exists in our lives as he does today, this, wealth and gold and partying and women.
Right.
And that's,
there's
an element to that. The lavish
of his
lifestyle.
Life, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
It's in hip hop. Last thing I'll say, the terror that the community felt. Like, I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, again, another shooter on the loose in Phoenix. What is it about Phoenix? But we know, Beth told us the history of gun laws. Lots of guns. And it is awful that the families had to wait so long for any kind of justice or accountability. And just rest in power to the victims. And we wish them well on their ongoing journeys for healing and peace. So, all right, Beth, where can the people find us?
Our website is fruitloopspod.com, and we use Fruit Loops Pod for all of our social media. The footnotes for each episode can be found on our website. Plus, check it out for the different ways that you can support the show. You can also join us on Patreon, where we have hundreds of hours of bonus content. You can also support us by supporting our sponsors, or by giving us a 5-star review.
5 stars only, please.
Don't forget to subscribe.
That's right. Now, this is a weekly podcast, and episodes drop on Thursdays. So until next time, look alive, y'all. It's crazy out there. Well, in that case, let's start the
Let's
show.
get started, as Wendy says.
Let's get started. All right, 1 second.
Cleophas, or is it Cleophas?
Cleophas.
Cleophas. I think so too, but I heard somebody say Cleophas. So
were they white?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to get into the history of the name in the show.
So fast forward more than a century. Bloop, 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 bloop. Whoopsies.
Okay.
Do you want to switch? You want to be Beth now?
Yeah.
Okay, you're Beth.
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay. Aha. Where I lost my place. Where are we?
He ultimately reached.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. Back to it. Now I'm Wendy again. He ultimately reached.
Cleophas was. Cooksey was released from Sorry. I'm sorry, Minnie. Let me start over.
Sorry. Just got an itch. DNA. Yay. Yeah. So
DNA saves the day.
DNA saves the day. Yeah, sorry, one of my kids just walked in. Okay, of being a prohibited processor of a firearm.
Possessor.
Because I was like, oh, okay, got it. I'm not a great reader.
I
being
probably
a prohibited
could have found a different term. That's that's legalese. So there's probably a better term for it. So it just means he's not allowed to have firearms.
Right. He's a convicted felon.
Yeah. In January of 2018, authorities, what? I'm so sorry, Minnie. I'm kind of sick.
Oh.
As my grandson says, womp womp.
Oh my God. So we did it.
We did it. Yay.
We did it. All right, my friend. Perfect timing. All right, time for me to go to bed.
Yeah. So, we'll talk tomorrow on the internet.
Deal.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Love you. Bye.
Love you too. Bye.